Welcome everyone back to the GOATcast podcast. I am CW. We're going to skip the intro. It is DameTime in Milwaukee. Huge blockbuster trade took place recently that I'm sure if you're like me, you did not see this one coming. We all kind of assumed that it was a done deal between Portland and Miami, that Dame Lillard would go to the Miami Heat, but that's not the case. The Bucks, who, in my eyes and probably your eyes, didn't need a superstar of the level of Damian Lillard because they had an already built team that had won a championship. So this was, I guess, going big and going hard for Milwaukee. Maybe this was a ploy to keep Giannis, who's been throwing out little teasers that maybe he won't extend his contract when it's up because maybe they won't be built to win more championships. You know, they failed the last few years, so since 2021. So this was a go big or go home type of deal for Milwaukee, and in the process, it didn't really hurt Portland. I have to look over to my screen, so if you see me looking over, that's what I'm doing. So in the trade, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks get Damian Lillard. That's pretty much all they get. That's all they needed. Portland will get Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, who was facilitated by the Phoenix Suns, who helped facilitate this huge blockbuster trade, and a player that I can't pronounce his name, and I'm not even going to try to. So Phoenix will receive Yusuf Nurkic, which is a pretty good get for them. Nasir Little, fellow UNC Tar Heel, that's what's up. Guard Keon Johnson and Grayson Allen, Dookie Boo from Milwaukee. So bunch of teams, well, not a bunch of teams, but 3 teams involved in this trade. A very, I think on paper, this is a good trade for all 3 teams. I don't see how this hurts any team. I mean, Portland already said that they will try to move Drew Holiday to a contender. So in that scenario, they can probably bring back some picks since they're pretty much in rebuild mode. And that's what they want. They get to build around a young center in DeAndre Ayton, who worked but didn't work in Phoenix. I think losing Chris Paul and them adding another ball-dominant wing and Bradley Beal pretty much seals his fate. He's not going to get that many touches, so his stock would probably not be as high with the Phoenix Suns as it will be now with the Portland Trailblazers, since he will most likely get plenty of playing time, and a lot of the offense and things of that nature will probably run through him. So does this shift the balance of power in the East? Does this, and before I say that, I just really wanted to say that this was probably the perfect fit for Dame Lillard. He had the dogs in Miami with Jimmy Butler and those guys that bullied their way into the NBA Finals by just being dogs the entire playoffs. But here, he's got a team that will mask his biggest flaw, and that is his defense. He's not a great defender. He's not a great, on-ball defender. But he is a sniper, and that's something Drew Holiday wasn't. While Drew Holiday was a phenomenal defender, he was not the offensive threat that Damian Lillard is, and I think that's what really truthfully helped the Bucks to catapult them to another level. They're already on the next level. Now they're on a whole other level. And I think that with a guy like Giannis, who's more back to the basket, more close to the basket, having a sniper like Damian Lillard on the court with him just will make it so much easier for him, because people could kind of play off of Drew Holiday because of he wasn't a consistent shooter. but now you have a consistent shooter. The guy averaged over 30 points last year, Dame Lillard, and he'll probably get as much or as many touches. Now you free up Chris Middleton, who doesn't have to be that fourth quarter go-to guy when games are close, when teams are double and triple teaming Giannis. You have, and of course Giannis being not the greatest free throw shooter, so they're going after Giannis. A bulk of the late game scenarios were built around Chris Middleton taking over. And now that frees him up because Dame could be the one, or they can tag team, whichever one has the hot hand, whichever one is open and free. It's easy buckets. So this is reminding me of the Golden State Warriors in the late 2000s when they somehow acquired Kevin Durant and just kept getting better and better by the minute. So now you have three guys, they're big three. I mean, people can say what they want about Chris Middleton, but he was a big factor in them winning the championship in 2021. He's a guy that can close for them. He's a very good closer, and he's a very good shooter when he's healthy and when he's on. Hopefully that will be the case this season. And even if he's not 100%, look at the 2022 Warriors, who Clay wasn't. He was just coming back, so he wasn't the Clay of old. He wasn't the Clay of 2016, 2015, even 2016, even though they didn't win the chip. But he wasn't the same player, but he still filled his role properly for them to get another ring. So I think that's the role that Chris Middleton now can play, since they have a huge megastar and a huge offensive threat. So, does this shift things? And also, this will be pretty interesting because the fact that the Phoenix Suns helped facilitate this trade, what if down the line, it could be this season, it could be next season, Phoenix Suns, Milwaukee Bucks. Now you help them get that player that is now staring you guys down in your way of getting the championship. So this could be actually really exciting for all teams. And I think with Portland, as I said, they get to rebuild and they get to stock up on draft picks and things of that nature. So it'll be a good thing for them to, and they don't have to try to please a superstar anymore. They tried with Dame. Dame was very, very, very loyal. Maybe loyal to a fault in some ways, because he really, after, like I said before, in one of my, I think, shorts or something, I said that the writing should have been on the wall when CJ McCollum was traded and they didn't get a big haul back. He should have realized, we're not going to build a championship team or even a contender. We're not going to build a contender. And I can't do it all myself. And he should have knew at that point that it's time to, loyalties aside, it's time to move on. And finally, he has now. Now he's a little older. He's in his 30s. So will Father Time rush in and start taking away some of his abilities or take away? But for his style of play, the last thing most players say to go is your shot. So that's what they need him for, his shot, his shooting. He's not a huge playmaker. He's not a Russell Westbrook type of player or someone of that nature that can, or even a Steph or a Kyrie that can just kill you with handles and get to the rim. He's not that guy, but he can definitely step back and hit huge shots with extreme accuracy. So the Milwaukee Bucks, to me right now, should be in the top tier of teams as we go into the NBA season. So with that said, segue into my next topic for this week, and that is a way too early top 5 power rankings in the NBA right now. And after this blockbuster, I don't think we're going to get anything big anytime soon. Training camps are starting very soon. I have to look it up, but I'm not sure the exact date. But I know since the NBA is starting back October 24th, and we have to have some preseason games, training camps have to start probably in the next couple of days or within the next week. So this is going to be my preseason training camp power rankings. And I'm going to just do 5. I was going to try to do 10, but that's a lot. So after the huge blockbuster trade that I just talked about, what teams have the best chances of winning the Larry O'Brien Trophy? In my opinion, I'm going to start from number 5 and go to my number 1. Number 5 right now, I believe, is, and please don't crucify me in the comment section, but comment please. This will probably going to be controversial, but I just think this team is going to come in with a huge chip on their shoulders after what happened last season. I think they got better. I think they have the dog in them to get to an NBA Finals. Even though it's going to be extremely tough, it is going to take their star player to actually get his stuff together because he'll be missing some time. You might be able to figure it out from that. I think number 5 for me, the Memphis Grizzlies. I know that sounds crazy because of the way they were ousted in the first round by the Los Angeles Lakers, but I think injuries did play a part in that. They were small. We saw how the Lakers were able to capitalize on their height advantage, especially with Anthony Davis. They were able to do that in the Grizzlies series as well as in the series with the Golden State Warriors. And with a healthy Steven Adams, with the addition of Marcus Smart, and with Ja, I'm hoping coming back and being laser focused on the NBA and his career and righting the wrongs that he's unfortunately done these past few seasons. I think that they are a team that can shoot to the top. I just think they're that good. Losing Dylan Brooks wasn't a big loss to me. He's a solid player. He was a solid piece to that team. He had the personality that kind of fit that team, but I don't think they miss anything from him. And Marcus Smart is going to fit right in with their mentality, and I think that he's going to help them to calm it down a little bit, to get under control. That's why Steven Adams probably would have been really huge for them in game because he is a veteran now, even though he's not a superstar, but he's a veteran that's been around for a while. He's played with different teams, different organizations, and he knows what to do to win. He's been on some winning teams. So I feel like it would have been so much better if he had been there. And now with Marcus Smart to calm these guys down, get them focused, I think they're going to easily be one of the teams to beat out West. The West is going to be a dogfight. We know that. But I just think that when you have a bunch of young guys that, and it's gonna come down to coaching, and their coach is a solid coach. I think he's going to really reel them in this season and really show them that if we can stay focused and we can play the basketball that we know how to play, that we played last season to get us to the number 2 spot. Oh no, they were number 2? 2 or 3. I can't remember exactly where they ranked, but I'm pretty sure it was number 2. Was it Kings number 2? Either way, that catapulted us to the top half of the Western Conference. If we can just play like that, but under control and focus, and our main objective isn't to get in anybody's face or to try to rile anybody up, but to win basketball, then they're going to win lots of games. They're going to win lots of games, and they are going to be a threat out west. And I think they're going to be a threat to the entire NBA. They have Bain, Smart, Jarrett Jackson Jr., Defensive Player of the Year last year, Steven Adams. But another big one that I didn't think about was Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is another veteran that has played winning basketball, and his mentality is going to be way different than theirs probably if they're going to play like they played last season. So I think with him and his veteranship and these guys knowing this is a former MVP, this was a former probably one of the best players in the entire NBA that we're working with now. So he's going to, I'm sure, coach these guys and tell these guys, we can't be out there, getting guys' faces and riling up the crowd and showboating. We got to get out there. Our mission should be winning games. So I think that they're primed and ready. Luke Kennard, also another sniper. They have all the pieces. Young youth, athleticism, defenders. But the most important thing is Ja Morant. Ja Morant has to come back and be prepared to be the leader on the team. He's got to look past his transgressions and really focus on playing basketball and righting those wrongs and doing the things that are necessary to show that he's here to play basketball. He's not here to flex or whatever he's doing or thinks he's doing. He's here to play basketball, and he's getting paid a lot to play basketball, and they're putting a lot of time and effort behind him as their centerpiece, and he can't lose that. He's got to show them that since you're putting this much time and effort in me, I have to put this much time and effort into this team and to trying to get this team to the next level. So number 5 for me is the Memphis Grizzlies. Number 4, a team that we spoke about a little bit earlier that helped facilitate this blockbuster Milwaukee Buck trade. That team is the Phoenix Suns. Now, I don't think they got better after this trade, but I do think they didn't get worse. And I think that they got a player in Nurkic that can do some of the things or a lot of things that Ayton could do, but will be a little more in the trenches than Ayton like to be. And will do a lot of more dirty work and won't need the basketball, doesn't need to score, can score, but you don't have to get him the ball. He doesn't have to be somehow woven into the offensive schemes. So having him I think is going to benefit Phoenix with their three-headed snake of Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal. It's just, is there enough ball to go around for those three guys? That's going to be the key, and I think that's going to be the major factor when we look at this team throughout the season. Is there's a lot of ball-dominant guys, a lot of guys that need the ball. Can Bradley Beal be a catch-and-shoot guy? We know Kevin Durant can. So if he's going to defer to them to kind of be the playmakers and he's going to step back and just be the corner guy or the top of the key guy, shot clock is down, that you can just hit him to bail you out. Will that be his role? I don't know. I don't think that'll be his role. I think for the most part we saw in the playoffs this past season, he controlled the ball a little more than I think he has in the past, even though he did a lot of that for the Brooklyn Nets as well. But I don't know how much he's going to have the ball. But now that they don't have a solid point guard as they did with Chris Paul, but Chris Paul, of course, went down, will he run more of the point forward for them? He can definitely do it, but will that be his role moving forward, especially now that he has two solid scorers? And I think it worked well. They were really one of the only teams to really beat the Denver Nuggets during the playoffs. I mean, somehow the Minnesota Timberwolves beat them, but we're not going to go there. They were a solid basketball team, and I think that Kevin Durant, maybe running the point some and trying to be a facilitator, will be a solid scheme for them to use to actually get Bradley Beal and Devin Booker going. And then, KD can get going at any time as long as he stays healthy. That's another key for this Suns team, is they have to stay healthy. Booker missed quite a bit of time last season. Durant missed a ton of time between the Nets and Suns, so they got to stay healthy. That's going to be paramount for them if they're going to really make a splash in the Western Conference, which is going to be tough. You've got a lot of solid teams out there, as I just mentioned, the Memphis Grizzlies. I hate that I'm leaving out the Sacramento Kings, who are another solid young team, well coached, that will probably be in the top 4 of the West easily. But I just didn't put them because I just think they're one. If I'm them, I can't trust Sabonis to be who they need Sabonis to be in the playoffs. So if they're one piece away to really being in the top tier for me anyway. They're going to have to stay healthy. They're going to have to get this chemistry down quick because there's a lot of good teams. You have the Lakers that have gotten better and will be a threat. But for me right now, number 4 are the Phoenix Suns. I think if they get it together, if they stay healthy, they are going to go far. And I think that they are one of the teams that should be favored to win the championship just because they have so much firepower. I think Nurkic's acquisition will be beneficial for them. He's a guy that can, if they run into the Anthony Davises of the world, if they run into even the Jokic's of the world, he's not going to stop them, but he can be somebody that can be a hindrance to them. And I think that fits what they have right now pretty perfectly. So we're going to see what the Phoenix Suns can do, but they are my number 4 team right now in the power rankings. Way too early power rankings, preseason, pre-training camp. Number 3, Boston Celtics. Another team that I felt got, I'm not going to say better, but they got something that they can utilize going forward this season. Now, will it work? We'll have to see. Kristaps Porzingis, of course, was traded to the Boston Celtics in that trade for Marcus Smart, who we talked about earlier, and a bunch of different players. Now they have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, who's getting paid the super max, getting paid. He's definitely getting paid. They have Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon. So most of the players they had last year, just minus a key piece in Marcus Smart, but they added height, which is good for them. Robert Williams is a solid center, but he's also injury prone, and you don't know when he's going to be in. So they need, even though Porzingis isn't your typical big, he likes to play a lot on the perimeter. He's a wing guy. Well, he plays like he's a wing guy, but he's definitely a center / power forward. But they're going to need him inside to really rebound and do that work for them. They need him to hit big shots. This will free up Al Horford some, so he can not have to be out shooting threes, and he can, even though he's older now, they'll need him inside, even though he's not a big center if they play him at center, but he's a guy that can rebound and that can, fight down low if needed. But the Boston Celtics, I think Mazzulla will get a fair assessment this year because he'll have had his full season with the Boston Celtics like he did last season. And I think that he will be able to hopefully try to ramp up their defense. Their defense took a hit when Ime Udoka left. So they were more offensive minded last season, which I think was hurt them because they can play solid defense. Their offense is great, but they are streaky shooters. I don't care if you're the biggest Jason Tatum fan. You can't tell me that guy isn't streaky. He'll light you up one game, and then he can't throw a rock in the ocean the next. And maybe he'll sometimes heat up in the fourth quarter, but he will have shot you so much out of the game that you have to hope for a miracle of him just getting super hot. Jaylen Brown's the same. Jaylen Brown can light it up, and then he can go absolutely cold in the playoffs. or in a game, in a tough game. We saw it this postseason when they played the Miami Heat. Jaylen Brown was just, and both of those guys are volume guys, or seem to be volume guys. Maybe they're not, but they seem to be volume shooters. And now you add in a guy, Porzingis, that doesn't mind shooting the rock. You know, Mark Smart, he would shoot it, but he wasn't a guy that had to shoot it all game. But he would shoot it. Now he would throw it up there, but now with Porzingis is a guy that's going to definitely try to shoot and try to make some baskets, some solid baskets. So we'll see. But I do think that Mazzulla will probably go back to the lab. I think he's going to try to ramp up their defense because they do have solid defenders. When they have a scheme and they have a set system in play, they can be one of the toughest defenses. I saw them just wipe Milwaukee out the year before. You know, they just had a perfect defensive set ready for the Bucks and Giannis. So if you have that in your arsenal, they will definitely be a threat. Just remember, they're just one season removed from being in the NBA Finals, and they have most of that team together still. Just not the same coach, but the coach that was a part of that coaching staff. So he knows what they did and what they need to get there. Like I said, maybe he tried to tweak it his way and saw that didn't pay off the way he thought it would. So maybe this year he will use some of the things that he was taught from Udoka and try to implement them back into the Boston Celtics game. And I think if he does, if they get back to their defensive ways, they will be a hard team to beat, and they will beat a lot of teams, especially out east and even out west. They can definitely bully themselves back into the NBA Finals. It's going to take Jaylen Brown. Last year was a contract year, so he's going to have to still bring that same energy this season, and he's going to have to do it on both ends of the court. Jason Tatum is playing into a possible new Supermax contract, which will be likely bigger than Jaylen Brown's. But he's got to show up and show out, as they say, to really show the organization that he's worth every penny. So I think we'll see the best version of Tatum this year. Hopefully the best version of Jaylen Brown will show up. If that happens, they are truly a dynamic duo. They're one of the better 1-2 punches right now in the NBA. And like I said, if they can go back to their defensive culture that they had just a prior year ago, I think they'll be a tough out, and I think they can get themselves back into that NBA Finals and maybe even bring home a championship. Now, my number 2 team was the team that definitely won the trade a few days ago, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks didn't really lose a lot because they gave Grayson Allen, who he's basically a role player, and he's hit and miss, and he's from Duke. And Drew Holiday, who was exceptional for them and was a really solid point guard that was a key to them winning the championship in 2021. But when you have a guy like Damian Lillard who can score at a much higher level than Drew, and you already have a defensive-minded team, when you have guys like Giannis, Bobby Portis, these guys are locked in and tough. So when you have a team like that that's already built around defense, you can kind of get away with letting one of your top defenders go because you have that culture already built in. So now you take a look and see, well, what if we try to throw points on the boards? What if we try to throw big points on the board? And we know we can play some tough defense, and we know we can outlast teams with Giannis. Maybe we can just dominate these teams. Maybe we can just destroy these teams. So now they have an opportunity with a guy like Damian Lillard, who is as I've said many times in this podcast, he's a sniper. And when you have a sniper like that and you have a guy that you have to pay attention to in Giannis, because he is, in my mind, he's the best player in the world right now. But it could be you can give the nod to Jokic, who is phenomenal and showed his dominance throughout the playoffs this past season. But I still think Giannis he's 1B. If he's not 1A, he's 1B right now. And when you have a guy that your team has to pay so much attention to, and now you got a guy that can score and average over 30 points, can shoot from half court and be accurate, can shoot from way beyond the 3-point line and be accurate. That's going to be a tough hill to climb for a lot of Eastern Conference teams, and even out west, they're going to have a tough time beating this Milwaukee Bucks team. And I think they won yesterday's blockbuster trade, and I think that win is going to translate into a lot of wins come this season. So they're my number 2 pick in my way too early power rankings. Number 1, you got to go with the defending champions. That's just the way it works. You got to beat the champs to be the champs. So until somebody beats them and takes them off that pedestal, they're number 1 in the power rankings. The Denver Nuggets, I don't think they got much better, if I can say it like that, but I don't think they lost a whole lot. They did lose Bruce Brown, and they did lose, I believe they lost Jeff Green. 2 big players that came off the bench this past season and in the playoffs. Those were the 2 guys that got the most minutes outside of the starters. So it was really it was a loss for them to lose those 2, but when you still have that starting 5, you still have, what's his name, Christian Braun, who will only most likely get better. He had some spot minutes on during the playoffs that he played well in. So with another year under his belt, he'll likely be, someone that they lean on heavily come playoff times or come the regular season. He will be one of their 6 men or whatever. But with that huge starting lineup, those guys are big, long, athletic. And you have Jokic pretty much seen as the best player on the planet right now. Should have been MVP last season. Sorry, Joel Embiid, but I think Jokic was definitely robbed last season. But with him coming back, and now he's tasted victory, and he probably wants to get him one more and show that he's really the real deal. Jamal Murray's going to probably play with a chip on his shoulder. We stopped LeBron. We dominated these playoffs. We're going to do it again. Aaron Gordon, KCP. This team is built to win championships, and I think that they're primed and ready for another shot if they can stay healthy. That's the key to all these teams and any team. But as we've seen, they were probably primed and ready to do it 2 years ago. But Jamal Murray's had unfortunate injuries that has caused him to be in and out of the lineup. Now that he's back and he's fully healthy, I think we're going to see another Denver NBA Finals. I do think they'll have a tougher time this season than they did last season getting there. I think they'll have a tough time with the Lakers. I think the Warriors may give them a tough time. I think Memphis definitely, Sacramento, and of course Phoenix. They're all going to be teams that are going to be really extremely tough in a playoff matchup. So, but I think until you take them off that throne, they're still the number 1 team in the league right now. So, but we'll see how that translates into this new season. Will they continue to be the Denver Nuggets that we saw just bulldoze through the playoffs, or losing Bruce Brown and Jeff Green? Will that be a factor that plays in? Will they stay healthy? Let's hope so. But Mike Malone and the boys, I think, are well set to be in the conversation for the championship once again this season. So this brings me to our last segment, the highest viewed short of the week, which ironically, if you watched last week's episode or podcast, is Michael Jordan centric. I'm gonna stop doing shorts on Michael Jordan because for some reason they do pretty good. So I want another topic to end the podcast. So I'm gonna try to do some different ones going on and moving forward. But this week's was about his 10 scoring titles. 10 scoring titles. From the 1986-1987 season until the 1998 season where he retired for a second time. Of course he came back, but we talked about Washington Wizards Jordan last week. He won the scoring title every year that he played. Of course he took 2 years off. He took 2 years of retirement, or a year and some change. Of course, he came back 95, but for 17 regular season games and in the playoffs. You can't expect him to have, he'd have to score Wilt Chamberlain levels to do anything in that amount of time. But the fact that Jordan was able to lead for over a year and a half, come back and remain the top scorer in the NBA with a new influx of players, new top talent. You had guys like Allen Iverson coming in. You had Kobebryant, young but coming in. You had Shaq starting to get into his prime. You still had greats like Drexler and Barkley and Hakeem, David Robinson. You had Tim Duncan coming in. I mean, you had players that were capable of snatching that title from him for many years, actually, not just in those latter years, but in those earlier years. You had Larry Bird, Magic wasn't a big time scorer, but you had Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins, all these other players that could have snatched that title from Jordan. But from 1986-87 through 1997-98, Michael Jordan was the scoring leader. We kind of gloss over it. Even in the GOAT debate, it's kind of glossed over because, oh yes, Jordan the scorer. But that's not an easy feat. The fact that he was able to, like I said, retire, come back, and act like he never even left when it came to being able to score the basketball, it's just insane. Even if you don't think he's your GOAT or the GOAT, you got to give that man his flowers because that was not easy to do in that span of time. That is GOAT basketball. I mean, there's really nothing else I can say about it other than that's GOAT basketball. Because we put so much stock in scoring. So when we look at players, and I've done a whole video on this, but when we talk about how players are considered great, a lot of times we look at their stats. But the one stat that we pinpoint is always scoring. If you were a top scorer, then you obviously had to be a great player. I mean, that's just how we see it. You look at, I can just talk about my son and how when games were finished, he plays AAU, he plays middle school, he's playing high school now. What stat do all the players run to the scorekeeper or run to the books and look for? Or ask the bookkeeper, how many points did I score? Because that's what we focus on. I mean, I tell him all the time, scoring is just a part of the game. You got to be able to do all the other things well, but that's for something else. But even then, Jordan, it's not like he just was a scorer. No, that wasn't it at all. He was a phenomenal scorer, but he also defended. He's a former Defensive Player of the Year. He's a 9-time All-Defensive Team player. Out of 15 seasons, 9 of those he was in the All-Defensive team. That's huge. I don't think we discussed the fact that Jordan was able to get these scoring titles as a young player, and even into his 30s, he could keep up that kind of volume and keep up that kind of consistency. We don't talk about that enough. Even in the GOAT debate, we talk about, him having the highest average still in the NBA. He's still number one in PER, player efficiency rating. He's still number one in the playoffs. Scorer, has the highest average. He doesn't have the most points, but he has the highest average. So we talk about that. We add that in, but we don't talk about the fact that 10 scoring titles in a row, really, because when he wasn't there, of course he couldn't get them. But 10 in a row, that's phenomenal, and that's just rare air. If I'm going to be corny like that. But anyways, we're going to wrap this episode up. Appreciate you guys. Really do. I'm trying to continue to do these podcasts. It is a little fun. It's a little more freeing than trying to do a script and abide by a script and do all that. It's a lot of work, editing, and a lot of work to get all this together, but it's a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you are subscribed to the channel, please check out the newest videos. I will put a visual of that in here. If you're not subscribed and you want to subscribe, if you enjoy this stuff, if you made it this long through the episode, you must kind of like me. So just hit that like and subscribe, and I'll be back for some more. Not sure about the schedule in the next few weeks. Hopefully we will continue weekly, but it may be, again, bi-weekly. Not sure, but whatever my schedule permits is what I will do. Again, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully you guys have a great weekend, wherever you're at. Please enjoy, and GOATcast out for now.